Howdy, my name is Case Copeland, and we're here with some of the Divergence Academy leadership team.
Albert Feliciano, Director of Student Success.
And
My name's Brett Harder. I'm the Director of IT and an instructor.
how long have you been instructing with us?
About 4 years, I think.
4 years now?
Maybe,
Okay.
somewhere around that.
Now, was all your professional training experience before that? Well, I'm sorry, was all your training experience with professionals, or had you worked with novice learners before?
Before Divergence, I hadn't been an instructor before Divergence.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Just came straight from IT.
Okay, well then, yeah, we're definitely going to have some interesting questions for you as far as like your learning moments, your ahas along the way. Any fun stories you want to start off with from your first days of teaching to this wise, old, experienced veteran now?
Let's see, fun stories. There's not anything that really stands out as like surprising or anything, but getting used to just talking to people and leading a class was a bit different from, coming from IT. But I think that the best way to kind of get the students and learners into a learning mood is to not shut down anything. So not make the classroom environment just very open. And that was something that I don't know, I felt was a little bit different to my approach than ways that I'd seen other instruction before. So that was kind of something that was new for me.
So it actually might have been a benefit that you didn't have prior training experience with professionals before you started doing this. Because I imagine it's such a different audience, it's hard to change your approach from one to the other.
Yeah. It was something that was definitely new for me, and I like to work on tech. I like to work with computers. I don't necessarily like to talk to people all that much. I mean, not that I don't or anything.
Part of the job description, right?
I'm just not. That's working in IT, you're not normally like a public speaker, and this kind of definitely involves part of that. So. There was definitely some learning curve there for me. But overall, I think that I had come from a perspective of I always want the students to feel comfortable asking questions. I want them to feel like the classroom is an open environment. And I try not to make it be too like formal. And I think that's probably different than a lot of education. At least, when I went through school, it was they're a lot more formal than the way that we run class.
A little rigid.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that's actually a perfect segue. The topic I kind of want to talk about is close to home for me coming out of education. I don't know if you remember, I did about 20 years in public ed before I crossed paths with Divergence. So as a math teacher, there was always this I'm going to say a philosophical kind of split between, you teach math, well, I didn't approach it from I'm teaching math. I'm teaching you how to think about math, how to approach math, how to go through problem solving. So you're teaching the art of applying something or getting into something as opposed to just teaching a skill or a hard content.
And I think a lot of education, at least when I was growing up, was focused on memorization. And in IT, like there's just not a good reason to memorize stuff. There are so many different vendors and different products, and things change constantly. So the memorization approach to learning, I don't think really fits well in IT, and it is much more focused on, can you solve problems? Can you look up, do research, figure out how to, fix whatever it is that you're working on? There are vendor guides, there are third-party guides, there are forums, all that sort of stuff. That's really the tools that we use in IT in order to do the job. And that's what I try and teach in the class, is to be a problem solver, not a memorizer.
Well, because the real necessary balance is specifically considering our target, not I would say our target audience, but the common audience we have, which are just pure novices, people that are starting out from ground zero. There's just a fundamental baseline of content they do have to just learn. But the balance that you as the instructor you have to hit is how do you supply the content learning, but also what we were just talking about, whether you call them soft skills or higher ability skills, you've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be able to problem solve. You've got to be able to hit a situation and go, this doesn't look like what I saw out of the book. What do I do differently here? How do I even approach this? How do I coordinate with the team member? So how do you integrate those into an immersive classroom again, where there's still a big demand to just cover content. How do you embed those higher ability skills also?
Well, I try and focus on the problem solving side of it. So there are some memorization things depending on the topics that we're covering. For example, like Security Plus is very terminology focused, and for new students, a lot of the terminology is completely foreign to them. So they do have to go through a little bit of that, and they need to have a good understanding of terminology in order to be able to talk to people, especially like if you work in IT at a large company, you probably are going to have to explain a technical concept to someone who's not technical, like a C-level or something like that. And understanding the terminology, it is still important. They do need to focus on some of that, but we focus on that where it's necessary, and we focus more on the problem solving where it's less necessary.
So as the school lead now,
Yes, sir.
how do you help your student success advisor team, your SSA team? How do you help them navigate those conversations with students that are like, give me content, give me content, give me content. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to write reports.
Well, I think that's breaking the, I wouldn't say stigma, but the misconception that, of course, being in IT, you don't have to, of course, talk to people. That a lot of roles are going to be client facing. Pretend you're a consultant. What you're going to be doing is talking to people a majority of the time, and while still having that technical ability and knowledge to, be able to pass on to stakeholders and everything, or people that you're trying to consult to. I usually tell my SSAs to give them the reality of things, is that no one's going to want to hire you if they can't hang out at the water cooler with you at a very base level. Using my own experience, when I went through my software engineering boot camp, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I was probably the worst student that you could possibly see. Constantly put my code on Stack Overflow and then answered incorrectly so someone else would correct me, so I would go ahead and get the answer. So that was my version of problem solving. But
You just gave away an industry secret right there.
yeah, don't copy, but trademarked. However, I will say that when I came out, the professional skills, and some would say soft skills, that I learned from that academy itself took me way farther than I thought it ever would. Being able to communicate in a room, being able to have emotional intelligence with someone else, and being able to break down some of the concepts that I do know to an individual that may or may not be very savvy on some of these technical skills, understand like what an array is, or vector, or things of that nature. Throwing out some crazy cool words out there that a lot of people probably wouldn't quite 100% understand. So being able to let my SSAs know to send it off to the students, and we do this every time there's an orientation or every time there's graduation, whenever we have great contact with the whole mass of people, is when you go out there, be able to sell yourself as who you are and be able to utilize those soft skills. You're going to learn at a different company, if you know Power BI, but over there at the new, company X, they use Tableau. It's still a data visualization tool. However, it's something that you're going to be taught on. It's something that you're going to learn. But the bare bones topic is, how to visualize data, both from like structured and unstructured databases. But if you sit there at your interview and you're just kind of like look down at your feet and you're like, start mumbling, you don't really know the answer, or sit there, I don't know, start swiveling around, all that fun stuff, chances are they're probably not going to hire you. So we can call them higher ability skills. Where you can just go ahead and be able to present yourself with confidence and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. I don't know yet, but I can learn it.
So there is the presentation component about how you talk about yourself, how you communicate, of course. So there's that presence that's necessary. Yes. But what about like during the job though? So in class, what could we list off for some of the top performance or professional skills that are necessary beyond content? We know problem solving is one of them. We know communication is one of them. Or what are some of the others that you think are necessary that we really do have a responsibility to address in a program?
Well, in IT, a lot of depending on the job role, but there are a lot of IT job roles that you're investigating something and then you have to make like a report at the end. Like you're making an argument for why something needs to be done one way, or why we need to do this to fix that. And you need to be able to convey an argument like an essay. You need to have, your thesis, your supporting evidence, and your conclusion.
High school.
Yeah.
High school English class right there.
Yeah.
Debate class,
and that's something that a lot of people that, went through high school English, they thought, when am I going to use it? And to be honest, it comes up all the time. Like you need to be able to make arguments, have evidence to support it, and do it in a concise way that someone can understand it who doesn't have the background that you do.
Okay. So that means we've got the figure it outs, we've got the communication, we've got the written. What else? What are some other, again, just natural skills, fundamental abilities that also have to be developed in a professional program? I think of resiliency. Like, what do you do when something doesn't work? How do you overcome situations? Because stuff's just going to be difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Learning how to learn is a huge one as well.
Right.
Just being a student every step of the way. I think we talked about this earlier. Students, especially come from our particular pool of students that come to our program. A lot of them haven't been students since they were in like high school, and if they went through basic training or whatever the case is, maybe technically they would be considered a student of sorts. But coming out here into this civilian world and trying to learn new skills, and this is one of those enterprises, one of those sectors where you're never going to stop learning. The stuff you learned last year is absolutely going to be changed from the stuff that you're going to learn this year on a continuous basis. I'm sure Brett can tell you better than anyone else here that everything is changing month after month after month, and we're just jumping exponentially every year.
Now, you triggered a thought for me that I like to hear, kind of your feedback as instructor and your feedback as your transition where you've come through them. And forgive me not labeling anything about military, but there's a lot of people who chose the military because they weren't interested in continuing on to college or going the school route to begin with. Like, they did their obligatory high school. They're like, I'm done with school. They chose the military route. And now at 25 years old, they're like, well, damn, I'm back in the classroom again.
Yes.
There's a battle there. So any words of wisdom, any experience where you've seen some of these adults that are back in the classroom, they don't really know how to play school?
I think that we do a really good job of holding our students' hands in order to get them back into that mindset. Sometimes there are
And not holding hands not a negative way, like in a supportive way.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
You need support to help get that momentum going.
Mm-hmm. And we help them get back to where they need to be to learn. And at least for me, I really try and focus on that. It's not about knowing everything; it's about figuring it out. So they don't need to worry about in the same way that they might have in school, where they're studying and memorizing terms for like a biology test. It's really more about being able to solve the problem, and you don't have to treat this like you would school or college. Like if I have an assignment for a project that I want students to work on, I don't want them to submit something that is just like a college, here I did it, give me a grade. Like it's the whole purpose of the assignment is to get them through a process that they might experience in a business environment, and to just give them that experience so that when they go to an interview, they can talk about it. They can talk about, hey, I've done this type of thing before, I've had this experience. And so I think we do a lot to help them get back into the learning mindset.
Because it's very intimidating, especially as an adult, to feel that vulnerable, especially if again, given our audience, most people are beginners. They still have that idea of, oh, I'm the slowest person in the room. Oh, everybody's getting it but me. And you start to get these oppressive, kind of isolating mindsets that make it even more difficult for you to make progress. Yes. Whereas truly everybody's struggling. Everybody's marching uphill because it's just a big body of new language.
And especially in IT, things just change constantly. So there may even be someone who thinks that they learned something 10 years ago and they think it still applies, and it doesn't, because things change so fast. And it's even faster than like software development. Software development, languages stay around for a long time. People still write in C and in COBOL and stuff like that. But in IT, things
dating yourself now
are just changing constantly,
right.
And it's something that I think that we do a really good job of helping our students with, is just getting over whatever their past experiences were with education and easing them into our model.
It was an earlier conversation. It was a pancake conversation earlier today. One of the thoughts that I had was, to go into IT means you have to be comfortable not knowing something every single day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You have to be uncomfortable not knowing stuff.
Well, there's the imposter syndrome, which is something that, for anyone who hasn't heard of it before, feel free to look it up. But it's where you just don't feel like you are qualified for the job that you're in. And people in IT experience it a lot. Like, it's a big deal in IT. And it's one of the things that we talk about in class a lot, is that you don't have to know everything. And don't worry about not knowing everything. No one knows everything. There's literally just way too much stuff out there for anyone to be an expert in all of it. And the real work in IT is being able to solve the problem, figure it out, even when you don't know it. So never let not knowing something hold you back. You just got to figure it out.
That's good old man wisdom right there.
Yep, absolutely. Being a millennial myself, I actually do resonate with certain things that Brett said, such as, a lot of the ways that we grew up learning were just pure memorization, just things that you could just spit out back on a test and say, here you go, got my 80%, 90%, whatever the case may be. We don't want that from our students. We want them to, we live in the information age. You can find pretty much anything you want. Just go to Google and figure it out. And we're trying to create a culture of students that want to go forward and actually be able to solve those issues, because that they're going to be at the forefront of whatever issues, for whatever company that they're working for, whether they have to produce a result or fix something. They need to go ahead and just pretty much check uncharted grounds and see what they can do about fixing that issue. They're going to be the leaders of tomorrow, so we need to prep them in order to figure out those problems that we don't even know exist yet. So Gotcha. We're just harboring that environment.
Well, I know all the transitions you've been through, all the learning programs, everything that you've accomplished in the last several years of your life. So any grand wisdoms or takeaways as far as what you have experienced as far as your growth to being a learner?
It's okay to have imposter syndrome to a point, but once you really understand and get your feet under yourself, at some point you have to have that confidence to say, I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm at least 1% better. Even if you were at 0.01, you're 1.01%. You're still going to get there, and maybe another 100 days, but guess what? At the end of the day, you are going to figure out a little bit more than you did the other day.
Oh, and that's one of the fundamentals of the growth mindset, which clearly must be necessary in IT.
Absolutely. Every single day. These certifications, they're going to pass one. However, that shouldn't be the end of the road for them. Starting at an entry-level help desk position, move on to another SOC analyst role, and so on, all the way up the chain until you finally continue to grow and thrive. Mm-hmm. Just have that mindset to just continuously be better than you were the day prior. Awesome. That's what we try to foster.
That's good wisdom to wrap up on.
2 points I would like to make.
Oh, absolutely. Excuse me.
So one is that when it comes to imposter syndrome, if you feel like you're an idiot or something like that, that's what happens is people just feel like they don't belong or that they don't know enough. Mm-hmm. Just know that everyone else is in the same boat. Yep. Literally everyone else is in the same boat. No one knows everything. And once you get over that, life becomes a lot less stressful. Your job in IT is to figure things out. There's never a point where you need to know everything. But the second point I wanted to make was, if I ask a student a question and they Google to get the answer, I am super happy because that's what they're going to do in the real world. That's what I want them to do. Go figure it out.
It's funny how people still associate that with cheating. Oh, I'm not supposed to use a resource.
No.
What if the teacher knows that I used a resource to look up information?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When a student opens up ChatGPT and gives me an answer from it, I'm thrilled. As long as they're going and finding the answers, that's how you work in IT. So
it's like your math teacher telling you you'll never have a calculator when you grow up. I can't count a day where I don't have it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your wisdom. And everybody listening to the old man wisdom, we appreciate that too. Bye, guys.